Hey, Shalom, this is the brother Abaya back here once again. Before I get started, like always, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Chachak. Double honors to my teachers, the elder apostles of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. I want to read into the book of Sirach, chapter 6. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the whole chapter. I'll just see how it goes. But this is Sirach, chapter 6, verse 1. It says, instead of a friend, become not an enemy, for thereby thou shalt inherit an ill name, shame, and reproach. Even so shall a sinner that have a double tongue. And that's majority of the people you see, specifically in Babylon. They don't give a fuck about how they converse with one another, how they treat one another, the morale, the morals, all right, that they portray. They don't really care about how they come off to people. That's why everybody's, damn near enemy. Specifically in America, where you have this big melting pot of nations and nationalities and ideologies and cultures, right? That's why when you go back to the time of the Tower of Babel, Nimrod wanting to make all nations as one, the Most High confounded the languages because, when you have all these nations together, the Lord specifically put different spirits, all right, within each nation. So we all like different things. We all gravitate towards different things. We all have our own different beliefs. But when you try to force us together, then you're gonna have people living next to their enemies practically. All right, you go throughout any major neighborhood throughout America, and nobody even knows who that next door neighbor is. Your next door neighbor can be a murderer, a kidnapper, a pedophile, any damn thing, and you won't have no idea of who they are, just because it's not a community-based society. Because like I said, you have too many different nations and ideologies. But yeah, you want to make sure you're not making yourself an enemy to people, because you have to live in this life. You have to conduct business within this life. You have to maneuver throughout this life and live in this life and build in this life. Even though you're in captivity, even though you're serving the Lord, you believe upon your power, you still have to, get your daily bread and move about, accordingly. So you don't want to make enemies, all right? You don't want to have that ill name. Going to verse 2. You don't want nobody to hate you, okay? Verse 2, it says, extol not thyself in the counsel of thy own heart, that thou soul be not torn in pieces as a bull straying alone. Yeah, when you have that high and mighty spirit, that prideful spirit. A lot of people that are very prideful and egotistical, they live lonely lives. And the ones of them who don't live lonely lives, it's because they have a lot of money and they're paying people to be around them, i.e. these celebrities, right? But if you're like an average person and you're very prideful, egotistical, you're not going to have many friends, man. So your spirit is going to be torn in pieces like a bull straying alone. You're just going to be maneuvering throughout the world, causing chaos, all right, and causing damage to your own life. Verse 3, it says, thou shalt eat up thy leaves and lose thy fruit, and leave thyself as a dry tree. Yeah, before you can even produce any righteous fruits or, any success with the hands of thy labor, you're gonna destroy that before you even have a chance, because you're not going to build connections, you're not going to build relationships, you're not going to provide a way for you to build a substantial foundation for you to be fruitful in this world. Even though you're in captivity, you can, the Lord teaches us that you can still be fruitful wherever you apply yourself, all right, accordingly. Verse 4 says, a wicked soul shall not destroy him that have it, and shall make him to be laughed to scorn of his enemies. Right? Sweet language will multiply friends, and a fair speaking tongue will increase kind greetings. And that's how you want to move throughout this world. All right? You want to multiply your friends, you want to multiply your acquaintances and your productive relationships that'll help you build the type of life that keeps you on that straight and narrow to where you can get your daily bread, you can live a majority peaceful life, and you can do the work of the Lord, all right, and serve your power how you see fit through the ways and commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai, how you know what they want from you, all right? Verse 6, it says, be in peace with many, nevertheless have but one counselor of 1,000. Yeah, you want to be in peace with many. It doesn't mean you're a fool. It means you're not inviting drama, trouble, and evil to your doorstep. All right. It says, nevertheless, have but one counselor of 1,000, meaning even though you're at peace with everyone that you come across to the best of your ability, you only get counsel from the men that are in the same walk you are. All right, the brotherhood, the ministry. All right, the saints of Yahweh Shema Shai. All right, we counselors amongst each other. All right. Those are the ones that you go to for sound wisdom and sound advice, beginning with the elders on down and the bros that you have around you that labor sincerely amongst you. But keyword is sincerely. That's why in verse 7 it says, if thou wouldest get us a friend, prove him first and be not hasty to credit him. So even if you have a brother laboring beside you on these highways and byways within this truth, within this ministry, you have to prove him, right? Does he have charity? Does he have meekness? Does he have humility? Is he diligent for his power? Does he truly love the Lord and the work and the labor like he says he does? Or is he just doing it for face value, for show, putting on a show? Does he, prove a friend before you credit him? Verse 8, it says, for some man is a friend for his own occasion and will not abide in the day of thy trouble. You look at most of the people in this world, they forsake you as soon as trials and tribulations come upon you. Look at Job. When Job started catching hell, all his friends started forsaking him and saying, well, surely you have transgressed against your power. Even though we know in the story of Job, he didn't do anything wrong against his power. The Lord, the Most High, Abba Yahweh, the glorious Abba Yahweh, the Most High, just had a wager with Shaitan. And Shaitan wanted to see if he can tempt Job to the point that he would curse his power and forsake his power. And Job didn't. But his friends in the carnal eye thought that he did because he was catching so much hell. But if they were true friends, they would know who Job was because they would have already proved him. All right. So you want to make sure the men that are around you are, to the best of your ability, will be around you in the day of trouble and not forsake you, not backstab you or betray you like Judas betrayed Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Verse 9. Because majority of these people in the world, they say they're friends, they love each other, but love is not an emotion. It's upheld by duties and commandments and morals. All right. A lot of people will forsake you as soon as you can't do anything for them, provide anything for them. Same with a relationship between a man and a woman. The average relationship between a man and a woman today is, can you give anything to me? Can you do anything for me? If you can't, I don't want to be around you. Verse 9. They say, can you help me elevate to the next level? Verse 9, it says, and there is a friend who being turned to enmity and strife will discover thy reproach. Again, some friend is a companion at the table and will not continue in the day of thy affliction. So you're going to have brothers in this faith, this truth, who are supping with us. They may do lessons with you, go out on highways and byways with you, teach this word, seem like they're diligent and sincere. But when Jacob's trouble come and, things get tougher and harder, they're going to turn against the brotherhood. They're going to turn against you. They're going to turn against the faith. This is what the scriptures is teaching us here, right? But verse 11, it says, but in thy prosperity he will be as thyself and will be bold over thy servants. Yeah, in prosperity he will be as you. You like what you like, do what you do. That's why these celebrities, they have like these God complexes, because people are around them just because they're prospering in the carnal world, the flesh. They have riches. They have, they're enjoying the luxuries of this current life, So whatever they like, whatever they want to do, the people around them are going to be for it. That's why you have a guy like Diddy getting away with the things that he was able to get away with, and not just him, but all these Edomites that, gave him the opportunity to do these things that haven't been exposed. because, the people working for them will prosper right along with them. Verse 12, it says, if thou be brought low, he will be against thee, and will hide himself and will hide himself from thy face. And you see that, I don't want to keep using Diddy as an example, but you look at a lot of people that was around him. They're not coming to speak out on his behalf. They're hiding, like, nah, I ain't go to no Diddy party. I wasn't at his house. I was only, there one time, and it was just short, totally turn their back on him because he's not in that same seat that he was sitting in. Those are not true friends, even though that's a wicked nigga, but the people that's around him are wicked. So you got wicked niggas that are turning on wicked niggas because they don't want to be exposed. How much more, a righteous person, a wicked person turning on a righteous person? It says, verse 13, separate thyself from thine enemies and take heed of thy friends. Yeah, so, if you know that a person is your enemy, stay clear of that person because they're going to do anything they can to entrap you with any device or, sort of mechanism of destruction. And even if you have friends, take heed of them. Make sure you're constantly examining yourself and examining them, that they're upholding and staying firm in the things that have made you unify, all right? This truth has unified us as brothers, so if we're not upholding our standard within that unity, then that's really not a friend. The Lord said you're his friend if you do what he say. That's how Mashiach Yahushua said that. You're his friend if you do what he say. So there's duties and standards that we have to uphold and upkeep. Verse 14, it says, a faithful friend is a strong defense, and he that have found such as one have found a treasure. That's why the brotherhood is so imperative and so important. You don't want to desire to be a lone wolf or all for yourself, all right? You want to be concentrated and focused on, developing the body and being a benefit, not a detriment to the body, but being a benefit, and of use. Verse 15. And the only way you can do that is to water that relationship, water that, that bond, that unification. Verse 15, it says, nothing doth countervail a faithful friend, and his excellency is invaluable. A faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that fear the Lord shall find him. Whoso feareth the Lord shall direct his friendship aright. For as he is, so shall his neighbor be also. Yeah, so if you have a friend, you're gonna hold your friend accountable to what unified you together. So that comes with rebuke and correction. All right, if you love your friend, you're not gonna be like these niggas in the world and say, nah, that's my friend, so I ain't gonna, check him on that, even though I know he's doing something wrong, or he's going off, or he's being a wicked nigga. I'm not gonna check him because I don't want to hurt his feelings. No, that's not love. That's not true friendship. That's why these people turn on each other. The moment something hurts their feelings or they feel a certain way about it, they turn on each other. They stab each other in the back. They murder each other. They steal from each other. All right? They defraud each other. You love thy neighbor. If you love yourself, you're not going to defraud your neighbor if you love him as you love yourself. All right? So you direct your friend in the way that you know that you both are supposed to be walking according to the ways of Yahweh Shemel. It says, my son, gather instruction from thy youth up, so shalt thou find wisdom till thine own age. So just because you have a physical old age, you may be 60, 70, don't mean you're wise. You can be a complete fool, complete idiot, because you haven't gathered instruction from your youth up. Now, you can get instruction as you get older, but it takes an immense amount of humility and meekness and patience and temperance to receive these things, because you may have to receive it from people that are younger than you, because you didn't get it when you were young. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that, so you got a lot of old fools running around. Really, they are supposed to be the wise elders of the community. Verse 19, it says, come unto her as one that ploweth and soweth, and wait for her good fruits, for thou shalt not toil much in laboring about her, but thou shalt eat of her fruits right soon. And that's what instruction and wisdom lead to, bearing fruit of righteousness, the fruits of righteousness, all right? That's pretty much the point I wanted on Sirach chapter 6. It goes into how precious wisdom is. And wisdom, is the gift of coming into the brotherhood, the ministry, this friendship of the Lord. That's one of the benefits you get all right, from being a part of this. And a lot of guys take that for granted, and the Lord takes it away from them, and then they cast it off, all right? But let me go down to verse 37 and end it here. Sirach chapter 6, verse 37.